The screen is visible to all.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yesterday we were discussing about different types of carbohydrate, classification of carbohydrate. In many places, carbohydrate are also terms as sugar. So you don't need to have confusion on that because carbohydrate are actually sugars. So that's what we are discussing. We have read first class of carbohydrate, that right, and in this monosaccharide we have read two or three important monosaccharide. First one is glucose. Glucose is blood sugar. All the functions of carbohydrate in our body is carried out by this glucose. If our body is taking any polysaccharide, any disaccharide, even any monosaccharide, ultimately that will be converted into glucose. Then only our body can use that carbohydrate. You can also understand by this, like India, we have currency as rupees. If any other country's currency we will try to use in India, it will not work. Like if you use dollar, if you use yen, it will not work in India. Similarly, our body is very specific. If carbohydrate type is concerned, our body only know how to use glucose. Our body don't know how to use fructose. Our body don't know how to use galactose. If we are having fructose, it will ultimately convert into glucose. If we are having galactose, it will
Sir, your
ultimately
voice is
convert into
breaking. Sir, your
use
voice
this
is breaking,
glucose.
sir.
So some important point. Okay. Is it fine now?
Better, sir.
Okay, so three types of monosaccharide we have discovered in yesterday's class: glucose, fructose, and galactose. Very important to know their different names. Like glucose is also known as dextrose, grape sugar, corn sugar, and blood sugar. Fructose is known as fruit sugar, and it is also present in human sperm. Human sperm got energy from this fructose only. Third one is galactose. Now let's talk about disaccharide. Disaccharide are none other than but two monosaccharide joined by a common bond. These two monosaccharide, when joined together with a common bond, this is known as disaccharide. So disaccharide have empirical formula of C22 C2H22O11. In yesterday class, I explained why this is not 24, why this is not 12. It is because formation of bond, when the formation of bond took place, two hydrogen and one oxygen leave those molecule of monosaccharide, and it remains C2H22O11. So when we hydrolyze these disaccharide, I already told you that hydrolyzation means to break any molecule. So when we break these disaccharide, we will get two monosaccharide. So first disaccharide is very much important. This is sucrose. Sucrose is none other than our table sugar. That table sugar we are using, that white sugar we are using, that is sucrose. So sucrose is disaccharide of glucose and fructose. Means when sucrose get digested in our body, sucrose produce one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. These one molecule of glucose and fructose are joined to form sucrose. So when our digestive enzyme work on the sucrose, it will be broken into glucose and fructose. So it is extracted commercially from sugar beet and sugarcane. Mostly from sugarcane, the sucrose got extracted, and table sugar is 99% pure sucrose. What we use in our kitchen, that table sugar, that white sugar is completely sucrose, and this sucrose is digested into glucose and fructose. So the main point you have to remember here that sucrose is table sugar and sucrose is broken down into glucose and fructose. In other words, sucrose is formed by joining of two monosaccharides. Those monosaccharides are glucose and fructose. Next one is lactose. Lactose is also known as milk sugar. Like in milk, this lactose is present. So you have heard many people are lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance. So lactose intolerance means many of the people can't tolerate this lactose. Many of the people are allergic of this lactose. So those people who are having allergy of lactose, they can't digest milk and they should not have milk. They actually avoid milk. So that's why lactose intolerance is connected to milk, because in milk only lactose is present as sugar. So this lactose is disaccharide of glucose and galactose. So when we drink milk, the milk digested into glucose and galactose. The lactose sugar of milk digested into glucose and galactose. So in yesterday class, we are talking about this galactose. So what's the point? The point is that when sucrose is broken down into its monosaccharide, the two monosaccharide are, one is glucose, other one is fructose. Both are also present naturally in the nature, but the galactose is not present in free form. The galactose is only be present in lactose. Like when lactose is broken down, only then we can find galactose. Galactose is not present in free form in nature. Now got this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's what it is written in previous slide, that galactose does not present in independent form. Every time when lactose got broken, we will find glucose and galactose. So lactose is present in milk sugar and in milk of mammals, whether it is human, whether it is cow, lactose sugar is present. Next one is maltose. So maltose is disaccharide of glucose. So there is also a question on this. I think around just December 2022. Uh, Sorry, July 2022. It was like which disaccharide gave two molecule of glucose. So maltose is the only disaccharide which on hydrolysis give two molecule of glucose. But the maltose does not occur to any appreciable extent in food. When we do fermentation of starch, when we do malting of starch, basically just like galactose, maltose is also not found naturally. But when we do fermentation of starch means like process of making alcohol. What we do in alcohol formation, we just kept some starchy food for a long period of time. In long period of time, yeast grow on that substances and it ferment that substances. On fermentation of starch, maltose get produced. Maltose also does not found very much quantity in nature. So hydrolysis of starch or malting and fermentation of grain, that form maltose, and in maltose two molecule of glucose are present. So again, once again, I am repeating, in maltose, two molecule of glucose are present. In lactose, one molecule of glucose and one molecule of galactose is present. And in sucrose, one molecule of glucose and other molecule of fructose is present. So whenever you are having sucrose, after digestion, you will get one molecule of glucose and one molecule of fructose. So now let's understand the third type of carbohydrate. This is most complex type of carbohydrate. The more monosaccharide present in any carbohydrate, it will be more complex. Like when there only be two monosaccharide, there will be simple double bond, simple a single bond will be there. But when there will be hundreds of monosaccharide, then it will be complex structure. It don't have only a single bond. It will have a very complex structure. So polysaccharide, hundreds of monosaccharide are present in polysaccharide, and they are having very complex structure. They are having very complex bond. So starch is the main storage polysaccharide of plant. Means in plant, the polysaccharide is mainly stored in the form of starch. There are very different types of polysaccharide. One is starch, one is chitin. Chitin is also a polysaccharide. There are also many other type of polysaccharide are present, but just like there are many types of monosaccharide, only hexose have dietary importance. Similarly, there are many types of polysaccharide, but only few have dietary importance. One is starch. The other one is chitin. It don't have dietary importance, and the third one is cellulose. So we can see that many grazing animals that live their life on just grass, but we can't live our life on just by eating grass. It is because starch have dietary importance for us, but cellulose don't have dietary importance for us. Our body can't digest this cellulose. It has some different function in our body that we will discuss later. But that grazing animal like cow, these animal have cellulose digesting property. They can digest cellulose, and so cellulose have dietary importance for them as well as starch. So starch is main storage polysaccharide of plant. I gave you some other example like chitin, like cellulose, but starch is most found polysaccharide, and it is mostly found in cereal grain, potatoes, and one more important source of starch you can consider plantains. In this, not that much amount of starch is present, but some amount of starch is present. So starch is major carbohydrate in human diet. Starch consists two types of polysaccharide, amylose and amylopectin. This you remember, you have to remember this also, amylose and amylopectin. So one question arises from here: amylose pectin is a polysaccharide, and amylose is also a polysaccharide. Then when these both polysaccharide combine, how starch can also be a polysaccharide? Are you getting my question?
I think they are broken down further.
They are broken down further. No, they join to form starch. So these both are polysaccharide. How? Why we are saying starch or also polysaccharide?
Maybe because of their structure.
Yeah, the main point is that if we go through the definition of polysaccharide, what is the definition of polysaccharide? Polysaccharide,
Multiple monosaccharides.
yeah, hundreds of monosaccharide. So whether it will be 500 or whether two 500 will join to form 1000, it will always consider as a polysaccharide. So starch it itself is a polysaccharide. It contains two other polysaccharide like amylose and amylopectin. When we hydrolyze starch, when we break starch, we will get two polysaccharide, amylose and amylopectin. And if we again hydrolyze these two polysaccharide, what will be the end result?
Monosaccharides, maybe glucose.
Yeah, monosaccharide. It may be glucose, it may be fructose, it may be galactose based on the polysaccharide. So is it clear to everybody? Is there any doubt in classification of carbohydrate? Okay, so I will ask question on this classification of carbohydrate. So which type of carbohydrate is having complex structure, most complex structure?
Polysaccharides.
Polysaccharide. Yeah, very good. And which type of carbohydrate is having simplest structure?
Monosaccharides.
Yeah, it's monosaccharide. So I hope all are getting my point. Now we will move towards source of carbohydrate. We already discussed some source of carbohydrate like disaccharide are present in sugar, fructose is present in fruits, starch is present in potatoes, cereals. So in India, more than two-thirds of food eaten is carbohydrate. Approximate 66% of our diet is carbohydrate, and it is not bad. It is according to our body need. We need around 50 to 60% of carbohydrate. If you are taking 100% of calories, then 50 to 60% of calories should be from carbohydrate, because carbohydrate is main source of energy. This we will also discuss. The main source of carbohydrate in the diet, all cereal, pulses, roots, and tubers. Pulses, in pulses, the most important nutrient is protein, but carbohydrate is also present there. So some important and some specific point you need to remember here, like this fructose and glucose. Glucose is present in our body. Glucose is present in corn sugar. Fructose is present in fruit sugar. Galactose is present in milk. Sucrose is present in cane, beet sugar. Lactose is present in milk. Maltose is present in malt product, like fermented product. So these two or three you have to remember. First one is glucose, fructose, galactose, sucrose, lactose, maltose, and starch also. The major source of starch is cereals, grains, rice or wheat. Yes, you have some doubt. Okay, potatoes, tubers. Potato also comes in root and tubers. So these are major source of carbohydrate. So you can see that 50 to 60% in our food we are having rice, we are having wheat. So it's good. It's not against nature. It is according to the need of our body. In modern scenario, you can see many people they ask to reduce the carbohydrate part. That is also necessary, but that is for individual who are having some obesity in their body, who are having some metabolic syndrome. But if you are fit, if you are in healthy condition, then 50 to 60% of your food should be carbohydrate. It should be wheat, it should be rice. Okay, now we will move towards function of carbohydrate. So major function of carbohydrate is that carbohydrate are major source of energy. As we can see, every device needs some energy to do work. You are charging your laptop, you are using petrol in our car in order to drive. Similarly, our body also need energy. So the main source of energy in our body is carbohydrate. All the important organs of our body majorly uses carbohydrate. Some organ also use some different sources, but most of the organ use carbohydrate. So carbohydrate is main source of energy in our body. And carbohydrate is also least expensive source of energy to the body. If you are having fat and if you are having carbohydrate, so you can compare how least expensive is carbohydrate as compared to fat, as compared to protein. Carbohydrate are very much available in our surrounding, and they are also very economical, and they are also first priority of our body when body wants energy. So how much energy our body get by consuming 1 gram of carbohydrate? This is known as calorific value. You can note down this calorific value. So calorific value is amount of energy produced. Energy is denoted by this triangle per gram of nutrient. Means if you are having 1 gram of carbohydrate, then the amount of energy your body produce, it will be called calorific value of carbohydrate. So carbohydrate have calorific value of 4 kilocalorie. Means if our body use 1 gram of carbohydrate, then our body will produce 4 kilocalorie of energy. One thing I want to clear here, that there is difference in meter and kilometer. Meter and kilometer are two different things. There are 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. Liter and kiloliter are two different things, but this does not apply in calorie and kilocalorie. Some people use calorie and some people use kilocalorie. Both are same thing. It is not like that you are having 1,000 calories in 1 kilocalorie. It is wrong. Both unit are same. In some books you will find calorie and in some books you will find kilocalorie. Again, both the unit are same. So when our body take 1 gram of carbohydrate, it produces 4 kilocalorie or 4 calorie of energy. Calorie is measurement of energy. Like we have unit for measurement of everything. Like we measure distance in kilometer, we measure amount of water in liter, we measure weight in grams. Similarly, we measure energy in calorie. Calorie is unit of energy. So both kilocalorie and calorie are same. So I will explain the simple mechanism of energy production in our body. So you can visualize your home gas stove. In your gas stove, two things are there. First one is fuel. And uh, what is the other thing need in order to produce energy? Fuel and
Fire.
no, fire will be produced. Fire is form of energy, but
Mastic, I think
uh,
it can be
sorry,
mastic burn the fuel.
match. No, it just light of the fire. So in order to produce energy, fuel plus air, oxygen is very much required in order to produce energy. So you can see that's why when we light up our gas, when we light up our stove, it only get fire at the surface, not in whole cylinder, because air is not available inside the cylinder. So in order to produce fire, two things are needed, and this law apply everywhere, whether it is car. In car, the air is provided through that exhaust. Whether it is any other device, if energy production is there, then there will be two things. First one is fuel, other one is air. You have seen an experiment in your childhood, like when we put a candle inside a inverted glass, then after some time that candle blow off. So for production of energy, two things are needed. First one is fuel, second one is air. So fuel is carbohydrate. If we talk in respect of our body use carbohydrate as fuel. And for air, respiratory system is within us. So in a cell, digestive system provide fuel and respiratory system provide air. So with the help of this fuel and air, our cell produce energy, and that energy our body use for different tasks. So air is present in the form of oxygen. Our body use oxygen, and like Every other activities, carbon dioxide got produced when you just light up a stick. Oxygen got used and carbon dioxide get produced. Similarly, in our body, nothing, no complex mechanism is there. Simple mechanism is there. Our body use oxygen just like gas stove. Our body use fuel just like gas stove. And after providing energy, carbon dioxide got produced. So same thing happen in our body. In our cell, oxygen get used and carbon dioxide get produced. So we are taking oxygen enriched air and we are exhaling carbon dioxide rich air. So this energy production is consuming oxygen and this energy production itself is releasing carbon dioxide and using fuel also. So first role of carbohydrate is source of energy. Second role of carbohydrate is protein sparing action. Protein sparing action, this is very important and very important for our health also. Protein sparing action means what happen if we don't have gas in our home, we use some other fuel. It may be heater, it may be wood. In villages where there is no cylinder, where there is no LPG, people use wood to prepare food. Similar things happens in our body if carbohydrate would not be there. If our body lacks carbohydrate, if there is deficiency of carbohydrate in our body, then our body will move towards some other sources and then our body choose protein to produce energy. So when our body choose protein to produce energy, like in LPG, there is very less pollution, and in wood, there is lots of production of carbon dioxide. Similarly, when carbohydrate got used as a fuel, there is no production of waste. But when our body use protein, there is production of many acids and all. This acid got accumulated in our body, and this is known as acidosis. This is first consequence of use of protein as fuel. The second consequence would be from where this protein comes. If we are not having carbohydrate in our diet, that means we are also not having protein in our diet. So from where body will get this protein? What is the source of this protein then? If we are not having proper diet, we are not having proper carbohydrate, then body have to use protein for fuel production. What is the source of that protein?
Sources
From bones, it
like
means
humans and
from,
you mean
from
the
our
food sources or the
from bones.
Amino
No,
acids.
yeah, not from bones, from our muscles.
Muscles,
Our
yeah,
muscles are
muscles.
basically, yeah, made up of protein. So what
Okay.
happens when we are not having, yeah, proper quantity of carbohydrate in our body? If there is deficiency of carbohydrate, so our body needs energy. Anyhow, our body try to produce energy, because if there will be no energy production, our cell will start dying. And if our hand cells are start dying, then just there will be numbness in our hand. But as I explained earlier, our brain cells, our heart cells need a continuous supply of energy. If there is just 2 or 3 second delay in production of energy, then there will be brain stroke, then there will be cardiac infarction, means heart attack. So energy is very much important for vital organs. So our body anyhow going to produce energy. If carbohydrate is not present, our body use muscular protein. That's why people who don't have availability of food, who are starving, slowly their bodies start shrinking, their muscles start shrinking, because body using that muscles to produce energy. So this is also protein sparing action of carbohydrate. Third one is oxidation of fat. So oxidation of fat, you don't need to understand this acetyl coenzyme A here. We will understand this later on when we will discuss metabolism of fats. So in short, we can understand that in order to produce energy from fat, as we have learned earlier, that fats are like concentrated forms of energy. There is very much energy present inside fat. So to use fat as energy source, body need carbohydrate. In absence of carbohydrate, body can't even use fat as energy source. Body will need some quantity of carbohydrate. And if there will be no carbohydrate, then body have to use fat without carbohydrate. Then there will be again some waste production, and that waste got accumulated in our body, and this is known as ketosis. So these are some consequence. If we are not having proper amount of carbohydrate, then our body will use protein, our body will use fat alone as a source of energy, and waste will be accumulated in our body because of use of protein and fat as energy sources. And because of that waste accumulation, our health will be like, okay, just a minute. Okay, sorry. So when our body use fat and protein, waste will be produced, and those waste will be harmful for our body. Next is indispensability for nervous system. Indispensability for nervous system means our other organs of our body, like our muscles, like some of our different organ like liver, these can tolerate deficiency of carbohydrate, these can tolerate deficiency of glucose. But for brain, glucose is very much important. Glucose is the only source of energy for brain, and if there will be deficiency of carbohydrate, then ultimately our brain have to suffer. So for our nervous system, carbohydrate are very much important. We have no other option for our nervous system other than carbohydrate. So role in muscle. So this is common point. Like every other organ, our muscles also need carbohydrate for energy production. First option is always carbohydrate. So anyone having doubt in function of carbohydrate? Okay, can anyone explain this protein sparing action?
So protein sparing is when the body is deprived of protein sparing action of carbohydrates is when carbohydrate is consumed in enough quantity, then body's protein won't be used up as a source of energy. That way, it helps the body to keep the protein intact and can be used for building the muscles and tissues and all that. If there is deprivation of carbohydrates in the body, then the proteins will be used as a source of energy in the body. And this creates waste in the body, which leads to acid creation or waste creation in the body. And when a lot of acid is accumulated in the body, it causes acidosis.
Okay, very good. So I hope it will be clear to all, like Usha Shri ma'am. So now we will move towards digestion of carbohydrate. So digestion of carbohydrate, as carbohydrate are polysaccharide. Most of the carbohydrate like starch, wheat, in potatoes, carbohydrate is present in polysaccharide form. So polysaccharide directly do not break up into monosaccharide. This process doesn't happen. It will be like a gradual breakdown. Polysaccharide will be broken down into smaller polysaccharide. Those polysaccharide will be broken down into much smaller polysaccharide. Those will be broken down into disaccharide, and ultimately those disaccharide will be broken down into monosaccharide. At the end, only monosaccharide were there. But this breakdown will not be direct breakdown. This will be gradual breakdown. Again, I am repeating because many students have confusion in this, like how polysaccharide are again forming polysaccharide, how they are again forming polysaccharide, why they are not forming monosaccharide. Because this process is not direct. Polysaccharide will be divided into smaller polysaccharide. Those will be again divided into smaller polysaccharide. Those will divided into disaccharide. Those disaccharide at the end will be divided into monosaccharide. Okay, so digestion of polysaccharide begins in mouth by enzyme ptyalin or alpha amylase. This ptyalin or alpha amylase starts digestion of polysaccharide, digestion of starch. Everybody knows this term digestion. What does digestion means? Yeah, digestion means broken down of complex substances into simpler substances. So uh, start breaking down into our mouth. Sorry, in our mouth. So the enzyme which helps in this process is ptyalin or alpha amylase. So we will go through this table. First source of enzyme is the salivary gland. In salivary gland, alpha amylase or ptyalin is present. This alpha amylase or ptyalin acts on starch. Starch is a polysaccharide and broke down this starch into isomaltose, maltose, and mallotriose. These are some of these are polysaccharide and some of these are disaccharide. So digestion of carbohydrate starts in the mouth. In mouth, saliva is there. In saliva, alpha amylase is present. Alpha amylase acts on starch and broke down starch into isomaltose, maltose, and maltotriose. But food is just for 10 to 20 seconds in our mouth. After that, we swallow that food. So in that 20-30 seconds, it is not possible to break down all the starch. So the other source of enzyme is pancreas. From pancreas, there is secretion of pancreatic amylase. This pancreatic amylase broke down the remaining starch into isomaltose, maltose, maltotriose, and because food remains for a very long time in our small intestine, some of the starch also got converted into glucose. Everyone is clear why in our mouth starch does not converted into glucose? Because
Not stay
Survive.
longer in the mouth.
yeah, food is there for very limited period of time, but because pancreatic amylase acts on starch in small intestine, and in small intestine, food is there for very large duration. So in that duration, some of the starch got converted into glucose also. Now, what will happen to these isomaltose, maltose, maltotriose? All the intestinal mucosa, there are glands who release these enzymes. First enzyme is maltase. This maltase acts on maltose, mallotriose, and form glucose. Second one is lactase. This lactase work on lactose and form galactose and glucose. Third one is sucrase. This sucrase works on sucrose and form glucose and fructose. Next one is alpha limited dextrinase. This works on isomaltose and form glucose. So all these disaccharide also got converted into monosaccharide. So end product of this digestion is always monosaccharide. Again, I'm explaining all this. Okay, first, in our mouth, there are salivary glands to release saliva. This saliva acts on this starch. Starch is a polysaccharide. And this polysaccharide got broken down into isomaltose, maltose, and maltotriose. Again, when in our stomach there is no digestion of carbohydrate, and in our stomach that saliva who got mixed with the bolus, mixed with the food, it got neutralized by HCl. So in our stomach, the saliva is not it is in active form. So saliva has only 20-30 seconds to act on food. When food goes into stomach because of HCl, this saliva stops its function because HCl neutralizes the saliva. Because the saliva is a type of is having basic nature. So HCl having acidic nature neutralize the saliva, and so saliva after entering stomach can't act on starch. So the next site of carbohydrate digestion is our small intestine. In our small intestine, first pancreatic juice contain pancreatic amylase, and pancreatic amylase works on starch and convert this starch into isomaltose, maltose, maltotriose, and up to some extent glucose, directly into glucose. Next, all these isomaltose, maltose, maltotriose, and this lactase. From where we've got this lactase? Sorry, from where we got?
Milk products.
Yeah, from milk product. Very good. So intestinal mucosa release all these enzymes, and you don't need to remember these all enzymes. These are having some similar names like maltose and maltotriose. These are being processed by maltase to produce glucose. Lactose is being broken down by lactase in galactose and glucose. Sucrose is being broken down by sucrase into glucose and fructose. And isomaltose, this you have to remember, maltose and maltotriose, it is broken down by maltase, but isomaltose is broken down by alpha limited dextrinase. This small variation you should remember because this variation only comes in paper. So now there is also one.
Say small intestine, it starts the starting from the pancreas. You said in the small intestine,
Yeah.
but pancreas is not in the small intestine.
But pancreatic juice comes in small intestine. Na? This is our.
Yep. I got it. Sir.
Yeah.
The secretions are poured into the small intestine.
Yeah, because pancreas and liver having common duct, they secrete their secretion directly into small intestine into duodenum region. And also the remaining part of small intestine having intestinal mucosa. Intestinal mucosa is wall of intestine. This is having some gland. With these gland release all these enzymes. So we also heard that milk is not for other adults. So the reason behind is that adults don't have this lactase enzyme. Children have very much capability to synthesis this lactase enzyme, but as we grow older, adult lost the capability to synthesize this lactase enzyme. So curd is always beneficial as compared to milk for other because we don't have very much lactase to break down this lactose. Okay, next one is absorption of carbohydrate. Absorption, like in small intestine, all the carbohydrate are broken down into these galactose and glucose, glucose and fructose, glucose. These are the final product of all these substrate, all the starch, all the polysaccharide. Last product will be these all substances. So where absorption take place in our body? What is the site of absorption in digestive system?
Intestine, sir.
Small intestine. And if we talk about water, water,
Water, water, where does it get absorbed?
yeah,
Kidney,
In the
sir.
no,
water, no, large intestine, sir.
yeah, large intestine. Large intestine is the site of absorption of water. Large intestine control how much water our body need to be absorbed and how much water our body need to be excrete. That's why large intestine control our fecal uh, matter or our stool. If our stool is hard, that means our body needs more water. That's why our large intestine has absorbed more water from that stool. And if we are having watery stool, that means our body is eliminating more water. But this is not in the case of diarrhea or dysentery. We will discuss this case in minerals. So when we don't take proper amount of water, when we don't have plenty of water, then we are having more chance of developing constipation. It is because when there will be less water, our large intestine will absorb more water and stool will be dry. So it will not easy to pass stool in large intestine. So less consumption of water is always related to constipation. So now let's again get back into this absorption of carbohydrate. Just 1 minute. Okay, carbohydrate are absorbed into bloodstream as glucose, galactose, and fructose. All the carbohydrate which our body had digested into glucose, galactose, and fructose. These all glucose, galactose, and fructose got absorbed into our bloodstream with the help of villi of small intestine. Our small intestine have villi like finger-like projection to increase the surface area for absorption. So with the help of these villi, the monosaccharide present in our digestive tract goes to our bloodstream, and this process is known as absorption. So rate of absorption of different monosaccharide is different. Like glucose is having rate of absorption of 100. Galactose is having rate of absorption around 110. Fructose is very slowly absorbed, 43. Xylose is again very slowly absorbed, and arabinose is very much slow absorbed in our body. So we have to remember about these three. These three are important: glucose, galactose, and fructose. So the highest rate of absorption is for galactose. Galactose is absorbed very quickly. Then glucose, and then fructose. Fructose is absorbed very slowly. Okay, just a minute. Okay, sorry for disturbances. So this is sequence of absorption. Galactose absorbed more quickly. then glucose, then fructose. Now, it is found that high rate of absorption of glucose and galactose is due to the fact they are actively transported, while uh, fructose and pentoses are absorbed by diffusion. This means there are two types of transportation: active transportation and passive transportation. What is active transportation? What is passive transportation? Active transportation is means you are using energy to transport something. Like if you want to raise water up to third floor, up to fourth floor, you use motor, you use energy. So that is called active transportation. You are using energy in order to transport something. So similarly, galactose and glucose are being absorbed, are being transported to blood by using energy. So that's why these absorption of these two are very fast. But for absorption of fructose, our body don't use energy. This is by passive transport. Passive transport or passive absorption. Our body, when there is a simple law that everything flows from high concentration to low concentration. So in our digestive system, there is high concentration of fructose, and in our blood there is low concentration of fructose. So fructose slowly goes through digestive system to blood. Our body don't use energy for this transport. So for galactose and glucose, our body is using energy. That's why it is fast absorption. And for fructose, our body is not using energy. That's why it is slow absorption. So all this concept of digestion and all this concept of absorption is very much important for this glycemic index. This glycemic index is very much important from net point of view, and also from if you are giving diet plan to someone having diabetes, if you are having giving diet plan to someone having obesity and all, this glycemic index is very much important. So please try to attend tomorrow's class. In tomorrow class, we will try to understand the physiology of diabetes, the metabolism of sugar, and this glycemic index. So if you are having any doubt, you can ask.
The last thing that you said, active transportation and inactive transportation. In that, I just wanted to